Welcome to a Prevent Connect podcast, where we explore the prevention of violence against women. This is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault.
Hi, I'm Allan Creighton. I am a social justice health educator at University of California at Berkeley, which means I do a lot of work programming on campus on preventing violence against women and working on racial inequity and other kinds of hate violence.
I'm Paul Kivel. I'm a violence prevention and social justice educator, writer, and activist. I work with young people and adults trying to come up with solutions to community problems, working across lines of class, race, gender, sexual orientation, and other differences.
20 years ago, the program that we developed was based on work we were doing in high school classes with young people, particularly on dating and other kinds of sexual violence between young people, male to female. So that volume included a 2-day script for such classes, how to run a youth support group for people who have survived, young people who survived this abuse, and background thinking about how class and race and other kinds of differences operate in the classroom, how that can affect how we work with young people. In the last 20 years, we have not only have the world changed and many more issues are quite prominent in young people's lives, but we have developed a lot of new materials to deal with and face some of these issues. Obviously, in 20 years, there has been a huge wealth transfer in the United States. Schools are increasingly problematic places. Education is harder to get. Young people's lives have been changed by the social media and the internet. We're in the United States is at war in several places in the world now. And there are many more prominent issues in young people's lives. For example, recent new changes around gay youth and transgender youth. So what we intend to do with this new volume is sort of, since we have produced curricula since then that work in classrooms and develop scripts and stuff, we decided to take this original volume and change it and make it kind of a base volume to deal with the other, that supports the other curricula we do. This volume includes new material on immigrant youth, on transgender and transphobia issues, on dealing with disability and ableism among young people, much more material on class and economic differences, new sections on Christian dominance in the classroom. So lots of new materials, lots of new thinking.
Really, we started this work in 1979, 1980, and we went into the classroom and working with young people, and we had a set agenda, what we thought they needed, and very quickly they gave us a lot of pushback around that. They said it's not actually, of course we do some violence in our relationships, but there's a lot of different kinds of violence in our lives. There's gay bashing and hate crimes and family violence and gangs, and there's also a lot of institutional violence in our lives. There's police brutality and racial profiling, and look at the state of our schools. And so we really listened to young people carefully over the years to respond to their needs to build community, which, you know, a lot of violence prevention is about individual change. It's not about building community and helping young people develop the skills to actually deal with their own problems. So the community building became more and more a central piece of our work. And of course, the Standing for Justice is because young people are already out on the front lines of social justice struggles. They want to make a difference, and often they're not given the tools and resources and information to be able to do that. In fact, every time they do come together, they're often interrupted by adults and seen as dangerous or disruptive. So we really wanted this book to be a tool that both young people and adults could use to come together across differences, identify their problems, and move out into the world and really make a difference.
I think in that way, this book has really written us. It comes out of many years of working with a lot of young people, and young people pushing us. And not only pushing us, but sort of an extended array of people who do this kind of work, facilitators who are the training community that we have been involved with. So there are many, many voices that actually show up in the thinking in this book. And certainly what shows up most is what we have been learning, sometimes against our will, from the young people that we work with.
I think traditionally young people have been defined as the problem. We blame them for using drugs, we blame them for using guns and using violence, we blame them for being pregnant. And you know, it's adults who manufacture guns and bring them into the community. It's adults who grow and profit from drugs. It's adults who deny young people information about birth control, sexuality, sexual orientation, those kinds of things. So they're facing a lot of challenges. They don't have good information and good support from adults, and therefore sometimes they make bad decisions, but they're trying to come together and make a difference. And so it really is about, you know, if you look at any of the classic struggles, movements for social justice in our history, young people have been at the forefront of those. And we want to encourage and help develop the skills and ability of young people to continue to do that.
Which means, for those of us who aren't young, it means preparing ourselves. A major part of the first part of this book is really sort of a training manual or guide for adults who are working with young people about how to support young people, to be allies to young people, and to kind of get out of the way of the usual way that adults can be around young people. As an adult who does this work, given the place that I come from, I'm not likely to know a lot about what's going on with immigrant youth, or Islamic youth, or very low-income youth, or other constituencies. What do I have to learn? And particularly, what do I have to unlearn in order to be present in a classroom where I want young people to be in a position of deciding what's going to happen?
I think that one of the things that is continuous from the earlier work is the concept we use of becoming allies. And this book is both about adults stepping up as allies to young people, but also helping young people develop the skills to be allies to each other. And not just to each other in terms of their immediate peers and colleagues and neighbors and classmates, but stepping up to build the community in a wider sense of including people, marginalized groups, people who are not in their immediate lives. So this concept of becoming an ally is first to identify oneself as part of an extended community, and then think about how do we stand with those who are under attack in our communities.
So when youth, for example, rise up and want to make something happen, they can easily be fractured from each other, even in that rising up around gender or racial difference or ability or disability or sexual orientation. The concept of alliance is, well, instead of letting yourself get separated, how can you find each other? How can you be present for each other and support each other? That's a central part of why it's so crucial to figure out how to provide alliance building work with young people and among young people.
I think a couple of different ways that this book is a tremendous resource for folks working with young people around any kind of issue. First, as Allan mentioned, it provides lots of tools for preparing ourselves to really be present with young people, to listen to them, to do the work ourselves around some of the issues of oppression that get in our way and separate us from each other and from young people. So I think that that's a crucial piece. It also provides a framework for understanding how issues fit together and what the roots of violence are. We talk a lot about our work as the root work, the work that gets below just the interventions, the stopping particular acts of violence between young people or between adults and young people, but gets down to the institutional systems that keep perpetuating and keep perpetrating that violence. So this provides a framework for understanding how that work fits together, and then how to integrate those issues into a domestic violence awareness program, or a sexual assault awareness program, or teen dating violence prevention program, or a hate crimes or a gang prevention program. It provides a lot of tools for infusing that work with a social justice, community building framework and ability for young people to go further than just individual change.
The sexual assault prevention movement is where we really started when we started the Open Men's Project in 1979. That's when it looked like what was appropriate for men to do was to take some role in preventing violence against women, understanding this is a men's problem. We became part of the 30-year rape crisis and rape prevention movement. And in that movement, as the movement built and got deeper into the situations of women, especially women and young people who were looking for help, we began to notice the differences in what happens in sexual assault, the differences around culture, around race, around economic background, about citizenship status, around physical ability. And the rape crisis movement has struggled in various ways, and sometimes not so well, and sometimes successfully, to figure out how to speak to those differences. I think having those differences more and more present for us is what has pushed not only writing this book, but the sense that this is really about building a justice movement across these identities. And that if we can figure out some way to facilitate passing that model among young people, then we've really done the work that we wanted to do.
And the other, I think, important way that this book is a resource is that it really provides a framework for using our other curricula we have a high school curriculum, Making the Peace. We have a middle school curriculum, Making Allies, Making Friends. And then we have a guide for organizing in schools called Days of Respect. So, and we also have young men's and young women's gender-separate curricula. So we have a lot of materials for doing specific kinds of violence prevention work, and this book provides a guide and framework and reference for doing that work effectively and powerfully. There's two primary ways that people can get information about the new book, Helping Teens. One is through the publisher's website, hunterhouse.com, and one is through my website, which is paulkivel, paulkivel.com. And the books can be ordered off there, any of the books in the series, and they can be other resources, information, exercises can be also accessed through that.
Thank you for listening to this Prevent Connect podcast. Prevent Connect is a project of the California Coalition Against Sexual Assault, with funding from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The views presented on Prevent Connect are not necessarily the views of the United States government, the CDC, or CalCASA. To learn more about Prevent Connect, visit www.preventconnect.org. For more information about CalCASA's mission or to show your support, visit calcasa.org. That's calcasa.org.